And we're back. Coming up on this edition of the Die Hard Den podcast, Shawnee J and I look at the regular season MVPs for the Lions. We also take a look at the coaching changes on the staff for Matt Patricia. Then there's an iPride profile on a Lions player who was also a great broadcaster. And Now You Know covers how the NFL assigns draft picks. All this and more coming up on this edition of the Die Hard Den podcast. Watch out. Here comes that roar. What up, yo? This is Kurt Steele, and welcome to the Die Hard Den podcast. And as always, I'm with my man, Shawnee J.
What's happening, good people out there?
Hey, let us first apologize. We've had some technical difficulties with some of our audio equipment, and we haven't been able to bring you content over the past few weeks. I know that we posted a giveaway on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and we're going to honor that. And we're going to start off this week with the giveaway. And we're only going to have it for a few weeks at the end of January. And the winner will be announced on the first podcast in February. So with that being said, it's time to get into some content, some Lions news. So as always, as we do at this time, it is time to tell me something good. Shawnee J, you're up first this week. My man, tell me something good.
Yes, Curtis, I finally had something to tell Lion fans good about. It's been 50 years in the making, but the original, the bad boy defensive lineman for the Lions, Alex Karras, finally was voted into the NFL Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee. 50 years, took 50 years for him to get in there. Way too long. I understand he has some issues with the gambling suspension back in 63, but hey, Paul Hornung was suspended the same year for the same thing, and he got in years ago, back in 86. So I think this is the right thing to do. It took a long time. Hey, it took the great Green Bay offensive lineman Jerry Kramer 50 years after his retirement to get in. It took Alex 50 years again. I think 50 is the new wait period. Maybe take Pete Rose 50 years after his death to get into the Hall of Fame finally. But the good news, tell me something good. Our man Alex Karras is in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully this will be the kick of something good as the decade of the 20s start off for the Lions.
Okay. Well, good news with Alex Karras. My tell me something good is my man, Kenny Golladay. His number got called up. The player backed out of the Pro Bowl. And Kenny Galladay's alternate number got called up. And he's down in Orlando right now for the Pro Bowl. I think it was an oversight that he should have got elected to the Pro Bowl on the first ballot. So shout out to my man, Kenny Golladay. If you go out on Lions social media on Twitter and Facebook, you can see Darius Slay and Kenny Golladay down there doing big things, getting ready for the Pro Bowl and some of the activities as far as the skills challenges and everything like that. So big shout out to those guys. Have fun down there, fellas. Don't get hurt. And we'll see you in the spring for training camp and OTAs. So
and that's the sentiment exactly. That's why I don't care about all-star games and any sports. I don't want my guys getting hurt in a meaningless exhibition.
Right. Just have fun down there. I've said this in previous podcasts is that I think that the fan experience is a bigger part than the game now as far as the Pro Bowl is concerned. All the activities they have down at Disney and the skill challenges and the dodgeball and stuff like that. I think that stuff makes it better for the fans, and you get the chance to interact with the players. When they're playing the game, you don't have that type of interaction, but at some of the events, they can get autographs and take pictures and selfies, and it's just a good time for the fans that's down there in Orlando to interact with some of their favorite NFL players. But moving on, it is time to go on the ball, and this week we're just going to really quick touch on our offensive MVP for the season. We know Matthew Stafford didn't play the whole season. Of course, he would have been my MVP for the season, but he did not. So my MVP for the season is Kenny Golladay. But lo and behold, the new Pro Bowler, 65 catches, 1,190 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 18.3 clip per catch. Those yards, touchdowns, and average were top 10 in the NFL. We all know that the touchdowns led the NFL. So big shout out to Kenny Golladay. Who do you got, my man, as your offensive MVP for the season?
I go with Golladay as well. He was only bright spot, a dismal season, all the injuries that occurred. He had to once again play with 5 different quarterbacks this season. So Kenny Galladay, he balled. He got a little injured the last game of the season against Green Bay, a concussion. I don't want this to be a recurring thing. That's why another reason why I don't particularly want to go play that Pro Bowl game. But he's definitely the MVP. I think he's the next great Lions receiver along with Herman Moore and Calvin Johnson.
I think that, that Pro Bowl is just a glorified two-hand touch game. They're not hitting hard anymore down there at the Pro Bowl, so I think he'll be all right if he plays in the game. So that's our offensive MVP for the season. Moving on to the defense. Now it is time to defend the den. My defensive MVP for the season was Tracy Walker. 103 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, and 1 pass defended. Tracy Walker had a really good season. He had 103 tackles, and he missed time with a knee injury. So he led the team in tackles. Tracy Walker is going to be a big star for the Lions coming up here shortly. Once he gets everything together, he has the size, he has the speed, and he has the coverage skills. So I think that once he becomes established, I think one thing that took away from his season is that they took away his mentor for the season. When they took away Quandre Diggs and shipped him out to Seattle, that made his season a little bit harder. 1, because he got hurt, and 2, that made him the senior guy back in the secondary. Tavon Wilson is not really a guy that plays in the back end of the secondary. He's a safety, but he plays up around the line of scrimmage. He's kind of that in-the-box safety. So who do you have, my man, for your defensive MVP?
I like Tracy Walker, but my defensive MVP has got to be, like I said, Trey Flowers, a newcomer from New England. He started off kind of slow with the Lions, but he gradually came on. His injury healed. He led the Lions in sacks. He set the edge. He did all the things that the Lions expected from him to do. But with all those injuries on the defensive line, he needs some help, and he's still my MVP. And we need to talk about on this podcast some guys the Lions can possibly get in the draft and free agency to help out Flowers this upcoming season. But Flowers is definitely my MVP.
So the last category for the MVP for me is going to be for the special teams. It's Jamal Agnew, 1 kick return for a touchdown, 1 punt return for a touchdown. I don't think there's another returner in the league that had 1 in each category. There was 1 individual out in San Diego. I believe he had 2 punt returns for a touchdown, but no special teamer had 2 returns and 1 in each category for touchdowns. I would say that the only reason that Jamal Agnew did not make All-Pro or the Pro Bowl because his season started off so rocky as far as the miscues, muff punts, fumbling, kickoffs, but he turned it around. He had a very good season for the rest of the year. Who do you have as your special teams MVP?
I'm going with Agnew as well. He's a personal favorite of mine. He has great speed, good return skills. Like you say, took one back for a punt return and a kickoff return back. And it was a question, will you make the team? But I really like Agnew. I still like to see him, develop his skills so he can play defense, be perhaps challenge one of those cornerback jobs, so even safety jobs. I would like to see, I know we argue about this, you like to see him, maybe he can be an all-around player, like Deion Sanders, offense and defense, Charles Wilson or something like that. So it wouldn't bother me if he played offense. But I can see him challenge one of the starting defensive back jobs, be a cornerback or a safety.
Now, I will say this, he may not have the size. Looking at his size, he's only 5'9". Now, I know that's not an excuse because Quandre Diggs is about the same height as him.
Yeah.
However, Diggs is a little bit wider. His tackling skills was better. So if he developed that, he could develop into that, safety that can play on that back end because he has the speed. I like him on the offensive side of the ball. Like you said, you already know what my feelings is. I think he can be a good gadget player. He's proved that in the past where he can come in and he's so fast, he can be a decoy. I just like him on the offensive side of the ball myself. So, let's move on. That's Defend the Den. Now it is time for our favorite segment, 2 Points Conversing. All right, this week for 2 Points Conversing, we have a myriad of topics we want to talk about. But let's start off with the coaching staff changes for the Lions. Now, we already know that they fired a lot of coaches on the staff. But we have a few new hires. We have Brandon Combs coming over from Cincinnati to be the special teams coordinator. And from what I'm hearing, he has a very good upside. People like him, and they say he has a bright future as a special teams coach. And I guess no place better to start than Detroit. What do you think about the new Brandon Combs being the special teams coordinator?
Well, I don't know much about him. Like I said, I read some positive things about him, but you got a question. How good could he be coming from Cincinnati, the worst team in the league last year? 2-14. I mean, that's not saying much. Mm-hmm. But I will give him the benefit of the doubt. He still, even despite being on a bad team, he still got his high marks, high praise. So let's give him a chance. Same thing with the new defense coordinator they got from Philly.
Right. Yeah. Speaking on that new defensive coordinator, we have Corey Unlin coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles. He worked on Jim Schwartz staff over there. He's only been a defensive back coach. He's been in the league several years, but he's only has coached that position. He hasn't been a defensive coordinator. Now, here's the question. The question is, does Matt Patricia have an issue hiring his friends? Instead of looking for the best candidate for the job, he's only hiring his friends to come in and fill those positions. You look at Pasquale, excuse me. That was his mentor and his friend, and you see how that worked out. So, do you see a difference? Do you see the potential for the same thing happening with Corey Unlin?
Well, of course, everybody's going to hire guys that they're familiar with, got history with, and I feel comfortable with, and feel comfortable working with. Like I said, hopefully, as long as it works, as long as it gets the job done. It doesn't matter if he's a friend or not. Like I said, we heard many times in the sports, the players and coaches don't have to like each other or be good friends or get along as long as they're winning. But when you're not winning, it becomes an issue, it becomes a bigger issue. So it's a tricky situation. Yeah, everybody wants to hire somebody they know, somebody they're familiar with. Like I say, connections. As long as it gets the job done, I really don't have a problem with it. But if you don't get the job done, it's a problem. It's the bottom line, winning.
Now, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Do you think it would have been a different story if the Texans would have fired Romeo Crennel earlier? Do you think that he would have been a potential candidate for the defensive coordinator job in Detroit, since he has a background with Patricia in New England?
We brought Crennel. It's a good question, $1 million question. I guess we really never know, but once again, Crennel, he was a loser in Cleveland. He got fired by the Texans. You got the question to hire. I mean, it's like Crennel's a bona fide winner. He's a winner under Belichick, and his coattails were on his own. He's tended to struggle, so that's a good question. Yes, Patricia has some history with Crennel. I guess he called them friends. I don't know if he would have hired him, even if he was fired, earlier. I'm not sure. I can't say he would have hired him anyway. I don't know.
I think he would have been a potential candidate if he would have been fired earlier. I'm not saying it would have changed Patricia's mind or Bob Quinn's mind one way or the other if he would have been released from the Texans, his contract as a coordinator earlier. It's just an interesting question.
Yes, what if? Yes.
And then the last coach you want to touch on is the new offensive line coach, Hank Fraley. Now, Fraley just moved up. So basically, Davidson left, and they just promoted from within. They just moved Hank up from assistant offensive line coach to the offensive line coach. So what do you think about that decision, and specifically about the performance of the offensive line and some of the things they did last season?
Well, the offensive line, they played pretty good. Despite all that happened, Fraley was an assistant under Davidson. I did not like the rotation that they did. Between the guards. I didn't like that. And I don't like how they're handling right now Graham Glasgow situation. They should bring him back, definitely. Should be no question. Fraley, like I said, everybody's got to start somewhere. Let's see how good, give him a chance. Once again, give him a chance, see what we can do. Because everybody got to start somewhere. So this is his first, everybody, get their first coaching job somewhere. So let's see. He's a big dude. Let's see if he makes a difference. If he gets the line to play better, who knows? But like I said, just got to give him a chance.
Okay. Looking at that, there's a few people that I know that got fired that I was expecting, and we both were expecting the strength and conditioning program to be turned on its head. And we know that Harold Nash and his assistant Rodney Hill both got fired. And basically, the Lions are down at Mobile coaching the Senior Bowl, pretty much shorthanded.
Yes.
They have their quality control guys down there at the Senior Bowl, and Matt Patricia's pretty much running the show down there. You got Bob Quinn, and you have some of the newer coaches that, the 3 new hires that we have down there. But does it make a difference how it's handled that they're short-handed down there in Mobile for the Senior Bowl?
It's interesting you say that because prior to Detroit, just did an article saying that it's no big deal if the Lions are short-handed. I asked that question myself, and then they felt the staff. Like you said, you got quality control guys, you got coaches, unemployed who are down at the Senior Bowl, putting their resume, trying to get Patricia's ear for a job. I think Patricia, he wants to run everything, offense, defense, and special teams with little help. You heard that, there's been some questions about how some coverage, media guys out there saying how tough Patricia is running the practices for the Senior Bowl. He's really working those guys like they're his players on the Lions NFL team. You heard about that? I heard he had a shape for a Michigan quarterback for being sloppy and taking snaps from center. So Patricia is a perfectionist, and I guess these guys, they expect to take it easy this week because it's an exhibition game, if you will. But they want to play in the pros, they might as well get used to it because and put in the work. And Patricia wants to see who's willing to work, who's willing to work hard, who's here just loafing off, taking this easy, So it's very interesting. And like I said, he's pretty much running the whole show, offense, defense, special teams, with only a few guys on the staff. So Patricia knows the heat is on. He's trying to find some men who'll be willing to play for him. He wants on his team. So I know. I say all this to say that once again, I agree with probably Detroit that I guess it's not a big deal that the staff is shorthanded. Patricia's, he's overseeing everything. He has more oversight over everything, and he'll fill out the staff when it's time.
Right. I would say it's two things that could happen with Patricia running the show and him being who he is as a coach. Some of these guys are going to get some of that harsh coaching in the pros because of their professionals, and they're going to be held to a higher standard in the NFL. And then I can see where you can draw some of the kids. Millennials, they don't have the same type of motivational tools that you can use with them, and then you can shut some of them down where they will underperform when they're under pressure. So we'll see how that affects these guys going forward. I've seen some of the clips with him on TV, and he is the same Matty P he is in Allen Park. So I will say that he's consistent on his behavior in practices. So he's pretty tough on some of those young kids. But we'll see how it works out. Your Senior Bowls be coming up here on the weekend. A lot of these players that after Senior Bowl, some of these guys are trying to improve their draft stock. Right. You don't get all the guys that's going to be down there. Some of the guys who pretty much have a good sense of where they're going to go really don't play in the Senior Bowl because they really don't have a reason to. They know they're going to, what they can do. They're training for the combine, so they're not really worried about the Senior Bowl.
Right. I know Joe Burrows or Chase Young at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. So, you have Metellus is down there and Uche's down there from Michigan. So they're down there participating, and Josh Uche really is improving his draft stock. He has some good film for the NFL scouts that's down there. He's pretty much dominating the one-on-one drills down there in the Mobile. So good luck to those guys from the Wolverines, and good luck to all those individuals down there at the Senior Bowl. Me being a homer, I'm a Michigan Wolverine fan.
Me too.
Gonna look at those guys for the Wolverines.
And before we move on, I was gonna say, as far as Patricia being tough on these guys at a Senior Bowl practice, is that a problem about young professional athletes today? So look at the NBA, for instance. You got all these young kids want to come out after 1 year of college or straight out of high school, 18, 19 years old. They want to bring their boys, their posses. They want to travel. They want to live large, live good, the gold chains, the expensive cars, the girls, of course. All that comes with them. They want the lifestyle, but they won't put in the hard work. And if the coach, they think the coach is too hard on them, yells at them too much, or pushes them too much in practice, or has the nerve to ask them to do wind sprints or something like that, they go run to ownership and get the coach fired. I mean, that's why I think turnover is so high, especially in NBA. You think today's pro athletes are too young and too pampered? And
I will say this: you can't coach today's athletes like you coached the athlete back in the 80s and 90s. Just because millennials are pretty much raised differently. Their maturation process into society is different. How their parents raised them are different. So are they used to that tough love and hard lines as far as coaching? You can't coach those guys like you coached those guys back in the day. You can't coach the kids today like you coached the 89 Pistons, Chuck Daly and those guys. it doesn't work because its motivation factors don't work the same. You know, you have these kids who really don't deal with stress when they are coming up. You know, their parents try to make their lives as less stressful as possible, and that can spill over into athletics and the way that they deal with stress. And you can't coach one player the same as you coach another player. I mean, that's just the way that sports are done nowadays. So when I say that they're pampered, some are, some aren't. I think it's just a different era, and you cannot hold them to the same standards as we did back in the day as far as our favorite athletes back in the 80s and 90s.
Speaking of the 90s, that's the time when, remember, Latrell Sprewell infamously choked his coach PJ Collins before the Warriors good.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that very well, and that wasn't a good look for either guy. I mean, I know PJ Carlesimo was definitely an individual who was notoriously tough on his players, but he couldn't do that in the pros as he did in college. It's because of the fact that you're coaching grown men, and there's only certain things you're going to tell a grown man, and the way you're going to tell him is really how he's going to react. You know, Sprewell was a veteran in the league, and he wasn't for that disrespect from the coach.
Right.
So,
and that's the one. Let's end on this. That's why very few college coach football, basketball was a C in the pros. A few might, but very few, most don't.
Right. And when looking at Jim Harbaugh, I think even with his success at the 49ers, I just think that he missed the college game and he missed the control. And I know he can thrive more at the college level. We just got to get past Ohio State. So, because we didn't beat Sparty enough times, but.
And kill Notre Dame.
Yeah, kill Notre Dame. So, I think that Harbaugh is definitely going to get figured out. I think he's going to have a good recruiting class coming in, but that's neither here nor there. But coaches, like I said, coaching young kids nowadays isn't the same as coaching back in the day. Looking at that, let's look at some of the players on the Lions that could be leaving here shortly when the new league year starts. We have some free agents that are unrestricted on the team that could be leaving. I'm going to say a few names. I'm not going to read all of them off, and I want to look at if you think they should stay or go in Detroit. First off the bat, a guy I think we should stay on the team is Graham Glasgow.
Definitely should stay. The most steady, reliable offensive line we had the past few years. I don't see why Lions are jerking him around. He should definitely stay.
Right. Two defensive linemen. You got Ashawn Robinson and Mike Daniel. Now, both of these individuals have expressed interest in staying with the Lions.
Right. I still like Ashawn. I won him a few years ago. I thought he should have been the number one draft pick. We were fortunate to give him a second round. I like Ashawn, but a new attitude, a new commitment. He's still young. As far as Daniels go, well, I heard him say that he'd like to come back, but it's ultimately a business, and he wasn't around enough, and he didn't do much last year. And Lions put $9 million guaranteed, and didn't get much bang for the money, bang for the buck, if you will. So I say bring back Robinson. You might let Daniels go. Bring somebody young in.
One guy they're looking at bringing back, which is a longer tooth guy, is Danny Amendola. They were looking at bringing him back. I liked Amendola on the Lions. I think he had a pretty good season.
He did. He had one of his best seasons, and he still got his good quickness, good hands. He's a good locker room guy. I would bring him back on a 1-year deal, so I wouldn't have really brought him back.
All right, last two guys I want to talk about is two members of the secondary. You got Rashaan Melvin and you have Miles Killebrew. Do you think that you could bring either one of those guys back to the Lions?
Melvin, he started off strong, but he faded at the end. I guess he showed why he's been on 7 or 8 teams in his NFL career. If you say like the Lions draft Okudah, and they signed a free agent because they said that the new defensive coordinator might bring some guys in, some veteran guys like Chris Harris, and a guy from the Eagles. You bring 2 new corners in, you let Melvin go. And as far as Miles Killebrew goes, I'm disappointed in him. I thought he'd be a star by now. He was drafted to be the starting strong safety or free safety. That isn't happening. He's a good special teamer. But once again, depending on who you get in free safety in the draft, you might look at Killebrew go to because he barely made the team last year. He wasn't essential to make the team. So you can let both those guys go as long as you replace them.
Looking at that, who do you think, as far as we're going to bring this topic up again, looking at a couple of running backs in the draft, draft potential draft picks or prospects. We all know the Lions had the revolving door this season with the injuries with Kerryon Johnson, Ty Johnson, and anybody else they brought in there. Even Bo Scarborough spent some time on the shelf, and he was only there for a few games. There are a couple running backs in the draft that we looked at. One guy I really liked, another guy you really liked. Why don't you talk about Jonathan Taylor? That's your guy. So
yes.
What's up with the Jonathan Taylor? What makes him your pick if we pick a running back in the first 2 rounds?
Yeah, before I get into Taylor, I just want to say I'm very surprised at 3 running backs that didn't come out of the draft. They're Travis Etienne of Clemson, Najee Harris of Alabama, and also Chuba Hubbard of Oklahoma State. I'm very surprised those 3 guys didn't come out. They would have come out. They would make this running back class even greater. Before we get into Taylor, are you surprised those 3 guys didn't come out? They decided to go back with their injury risk being so high for running backs.
I think that with Etienne, I think he has something to prove. I think he wants to go back.
Well, he already won national championships.
Right. But he wants another one. And then you have to look at the, maybe he was scouted and they said, hey, you might want to stay another year at school. Depends on what his people are telling him. Or he just may want to go back and play in college. He's not done with the college experience. I mean, everyone's not a 3-and-out guy. I mean, some people want to stay. I understand what you're saying with the injury rate and the fruition rate of running backs in both college and the professional ranks. But I think those guys may have something to prove and they want to go back and they're not done with the college experience yet. Okay. I mean, I applaud them. Maybe they want to be a senior and graduate and have a degree before they come out into the NFL.
And like I said, I guess I can respect the decisions, but I'm surprised. I mean, because they reached the pinnacle of college sports, especially international titles, and there's not much more to prove for any of them. But I do respect their decisions of going back. It took some courage. Remember Bryce Love of Stanford made the same decision. He rushed over 2,000 yards. He went back, got hurt. And it hurt his draft. Now he's kind of a journeyman. He's not getting much time. He's with the Redskins now. So it's always at risk. But anyway, back to your original question. I'm sorry. I had to mention that. I had to bring that up. Jonathan Taylor. I love Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin's big offensive lineman. And Taylor, Wisconsin plus some good running backs as well as offensive lineman. Taylor, he rushed for over 6,000 yards in 3 years. He's a workhorse. He's durable. He has good size. We disagree on this. He reminds me a little bit of both Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott. He has good speed. Once again, durable. He can move the chains. He's the type of running back the Lions want. A big running back. Well, they don't want no little 5'8", 180-pound running back. No, not very durable. I want a big guy. That's why I like Taylor. And one more guy I want to throw on that list who I like, who we may get in the 3rd round. And that is A.J. Dillon from Boston College. He's a big boy. He's built 6 feet, 250 pounds. He was originally a University of Michigan commit, but he decommitted to Michigan, went to Boston College, stayed home, played ball. And he rushed for at least 1,300 yards every year, his 3 years in college. He's another big boy, a running back, a workhorse, durable, strong, the type of guy I like, the type of guy Darrell Bevell and Patricia likes. I wouldn't mind having either Taylor or Dillon on my team next year for the Lions. Those 2 guys I like.
With that size, I mean, he sounds like another Derrick Henry.
Yes, or the Bucks. Yes.
Yeah. Really big guy. Now, the other guy I was looking at was J.K. Dobbins. As much as I don't like the team from Ohio, Dobbins does remind me of Ezekiel Elliott. He's about that same size, about 5'10", almost 220. If you look at his performance in the bowl game versus Clemson, I mean, he went down for a little bit, take his ankle back up. He had a really good game. I know people are going to talk about the drop pass and things of that nature, but he's still only a young man, but I think he had an excellent career at Ohio State. But I like J.K. Dobbins. I like his top end speed. I think he's faster than Taylor. I think he has more fluid cuts and moves through the hole than Taylor does. It would be an interesting fact to bring him in. Now, I'm not saying that the Lions need to draft a running back, but it would be nice to have a good, solid, durable back. I like Kerryon as much as I do, but he just has the injury bug. He's had it for a while. since he was at Auburn. And both years he's been in the league, he's had significant time on the shelf because he's been injured. I mean, we'll see how that works out and what Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia's thinking is going into the draft.
That's the Lions. Say interrupt, buddy. Why did the Lions do take another running back? For that reason, Kerryon's talented, but injury prone. Same thing with Bo Scarborough. I love Scarborough. Want him back on the team, but you can't count on him being those guys being number one guy because they're both too injury prone.
Right. Or they could be like Seattle. I mean, Seattle had that running back by committee. I mean, a lot of teams have that, running back by committee. You had Carson out there and what's his name, Rashad Penny. But the only problem with Seattle was that all three of those guys got hurt.
Yes.
At the end of the season, and they end up signing up
Marshawn Lynch
and the other guy off their street. I mean, these are older, long in the tooth players that came back to their roster because of the fact they needed some running backs to play in the playoffs. So that's that's always the downfall of having running backs in the NFL right now, is that with the linebackers and the safeties and all those guys, I mean, it's easier for those guys to get injured. They definitely have a shorter career than any other position in the NFL, just because of the fact they take a lot of hard hits and they run the risk of having a higher injury rate.
Yes.
Position.
Definitely.
So moving on to the next topic, who are some of the guys that you think the Lions should bring in free agency?
Okay, I got a couple names, offense and defense. If you don't want to draft a running back, a lot of guys in that group scoff when I mentioned the draft of the running back. I'm not saying draft one the third overall pick, but they don't want to take one at all. Are we cool with Kerryon and Scarborough? But like you said, the injury prone. If you don't want to draft one, I say, if he's available, Tennessee's foolish enough not to franchise him, we should go after Derrick Henry because he really impressed me. I mean, I love those big running backs. I mean, Kansas City, they found a way to slow him down, obviously, but they got that far off Henry's back. Henry carried him to the AFC Championship game. And I'm surprised Tennessee's even questioning if they want to bring him back or not. They should franchise him. There should be no doubt about it. But once again, they're the same mindset that all running backs are expendable. It's easy to find a 1,500-yard rusher off the streets or as a free agent or in the 7th round of the draft. It's not that easy. So I would like Henry. And a guy on defense, I want to bring back an old friend of ours. You know what I'm talking about? He kind of broke our hearts years ago, but I still think he has 1 year left in the tank, and that's big. And Ndamukong Suh. I was thinking a 1 year deal, like a Sioux Union. I think he can still help the young guys like the Han and Ashawn Robinson, and especially as Snacks retires. I think it'd be a nice fill-in. If you want to draft a defensive tackle, that's fine. But Suh, he'll give some security. So I would love to have Henry and Suh come back definitely.
Edge rusher from the Bucks. That's the guy. What's his name? Shaq Barrett.
Yes,
is the one guy I would want to come in and help Trey Flowers. You have an established defensive edge guy. I think those two, and that would take the pressure off of having to draft a young guy like Chase Young, where you have an established defensive end on both sides. So it would not be an issue where you have to growing pains with a rookie. So that's my guy, Shaq Barrett, coming up. I think that's be a good addition. And plus, he's just a really good guy. If you go out on social media, there's an article where he met a longtime Bucks fan. I think it was a young kid, and his dad had died of ALS, and he met him down at the Pro Bowl. That's Tampa and Orlando's only about a couple hours away by car. So
But one thing, Shaq Barrett scares me. He had a career year, 19.5 sacks last year. And that was a career. That one thing that bothers me. How did he have such a big career? I mean, a big year last year. One of the best years in NFL history. Did he cheat, if you know what I mean? Did he use enhancing, steroids or anything? That's the question I can ask. How did he go from being an average football player to all of a sudden Lawrence Taylor? I mean, his season raised eyebrows.
Right.
For instance, Patrick Peterson, he was suspended for many games this past season for using PhDs. So, like I said, Shaq Barrett, I'm looking at him kind of side-eyed. I mean, how you go from being basically Kyle Van Noy to Lawrence Taylor overnight. So,
well, Kyle Van Noy got a couple Super Bowls, so I would.
Yeah, but you could have won him easy without him. It wasn't like he dominated. He was like Lawrence Taylor, the Patriots either. So, but
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but does that bother you about Barry? How did he get so good so fast?
I don't, because here's the deal. There's from one season to the next could be your make or break season. So everyone in the NFL isn't the greatest talent in the world off the rip. Some players develop into a good player, and it takes them a few years to really get into how the NFL is played. And then sometimes it could be scenery, new team, you have a new lot on life, new coaching. So there could be a lot of factors into the fact how he became what he is now at Tampa compared to he was at the other team. So I think that I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he just had a hell of a season, and I think that he can improve on that. And I wouldn't mind having him in the Honolulu blue and silver. So, I mean, that's just me. All right. Moving on. I think the last thing I really want to touch and it was a breaking news that just happened, and it'll be out when this podcast comes out the next day or so. Antonio Brown, again, it just happened. It is Wednesday night, the 22nd of January, and the time is roughly around 9:20. A couple minutes ago, arrest warrant was issued for Antonio Brown, charged with battery and burglary. I will say this. I think that young man has some mental issues. I don't think it's just acting out. I don't think he's just acting tough. I think he has a serious mental issue. And I think that that's a stigma, especially in the athletic community where, these athletes, they get it where they don't feel they need to talk to anybody, or they get this big ego. And then you have situations where you have people like Antonio Brown who may have had some mental issues in the past, but they just manifest themselves when they put them and they get this big ego. And you give a person who has who are fragile, and then you put them with money and fame, but they don't know how to handle it, and no one's ever taught them how to handle it, and their success. But then no one's around to really help guide them.
What about the basketball player,
Yeah, Delonte West.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a sad story in itself. I mean, mental issue is definitely a problem in sports, and particularly for these two young men. Now, I'll just say this, and I will leave it alone. I'll leave it alone. Is that as an African American male, that's definitely an issue in our community, where you have men who don't want to get help. They just try to power through it. And there's no such thing as powering through it through mental health. If you have an issue, you need to address it. Talk to somebody, talk to a counselor, talk to your pastor, talk to somebody. But you can't just go for a run, go work out. You need to address it with a mental health professional. I mean, it's for your sake and for the sake of your family. Now you have this man out here acting a fool in front of his kids, in front of the police, threatening police officers. I just think there's something not right with Antonio Brown, and I wish him to get the help that he needs, because his behavior is not only wrong, it's dangerous, and he's going down a slope where, Antonio Brown, could very well be behind bars for a number of years because he didn't get the help he needed before he went behind bars, because his behavior is definitely one of someone who needs some mental health help.
Yeah, you think he'll ever play NFL again, or he's done?
I think he's pretty much done right now. I mean, unless he has this really remarkable turnaround where he may have a year off to sit in go into an inpatient care. I don't think he plays next season. If he plays, it'd be 2021. And if you gotta look at him, he's getting a little bit longer in the tooth as well. But it's just sad that, to see him in the state of affairs that he's put himself in in his personal life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that being said, that was 2 Points Conversing, one of our favorite segments of the show. When we get back from the break, we will have a Our Pride profile on a longtime Lions player and a broadcast legend. All right, we're back from our break. Shawnee J, let me know and let the people know who you have for your Our Pride profile this week.
Today, I would like to talk about a Lion, old school Lion, one of the best players in NFL history, who a lot of fans, younger fans, don't know about, never heard of. And that was the Lions, one of the Lions' greatest players, one of the longest tenured players in history, Mr. Wayne Walker. Wayne Walker, born in Boise, Idaho in 1935. He went to the University of Idaho, where he was a teammate, good friend, roommate of future rival Jerry Kramer of the Green Bay Packers. They still made friends during their playing days and afterwards. I'm talking about Kramer and Walker. Walker was drafted to the Lions in 1958, the year after they won their last championship. He played a then record 200-plus games for the Lions from 1958 to 1972. His record was broken a few years ago by place kicker Jason Hanson in terms of games played and longevity, but he's still one of the greatest Lions players in their history. He's a three-time Pro Bowler. In addition to being a linebacker, he also did some place kicking, kick field goals for the Lions for a few years. Before Walker's career ended, he was thinking about his future at the football. So in the last few years of his Lions career, he did weekend sports anchoring gigs for several different local news stations. And once his career retired, he got a job out at the CBS affiliate in San Francisco. He was a longtime broadcaster, radio voice of the San Francisco 49ers. And he was the sports director for the local San Francisco affiliate for CBS for over 20 years. Once he and his wife finally retired from broadcasting, he went back home to Boise, Idaho, and where he still couldn't quite leave it alone. They did a wilderness show, up in Idaho, so Walker is still very popular. But as he aged, Father Time caught with him. He suffered several concussions in his career. And back then, they didn't take concussions as seriously as they do now. And he eventually died of Alzheimer's disease at the ripe old age of 82 years old in 2017. So number 55, the original number 55, Wayne Walker, one of the best players NFL history. He should also be in the Hall of Fame one day. So there's my Pride profile of the week.
Right. Now, looking at the contributor, I mean, he could definitely go in as a different categories in the Hall of Fame. You're looking at where he can go in as a broadcaster as well as a player.
He should go in as a player for sure. A player, because he had the career, he put in the numbers. He only played one playoff game. That's the thing. I think that's wrong. You shouldn't just look at, the teams. We look at the statistics. Like, how the heck did Dick Butkus and Gale Sayers get in the Hall of Fame when they never made the playoffs at all? They only played 1-2 winning teams for Chicago. So they should have made it if you want to base it on that.
Right. And Gale Sayers would have definitely had a shortened career as well. So
yes.
With his knee injury. But hey, I hear you. But Wayne Walker is definitely worthy of our Pride profile. Now it's time for Now You Know. We're going to look at how the NFL assigns draft picks, and we'll be back right after this. Now You Know is brought to you by Foster Camera Solutions. For your home or business security needs, call Dan at Foster Camera Solutions for a free estimate at 248-672-8640. With no monthly fees and self-monitoring from your smartphone, computer, or tablet, let Foster Camera Solutions design a security camera system that fits your needs. You can also visit their Facebook page for more information at facebook.com/Foster Camera Solutions. Remember, Foster Camera Solutions when securing your home or business. What up, though? This is Kurt Steele, and welcome to this week's edition of Now You Know. This week, we're going to cover how the NFL assigns draft picks for the upcoming NFL draft. The season is over, so we're going to show how the NFL uses the record from the previous season to determine the upcoming draft order for the NFL draft. The information comes directly from the NFL rulebook and the NFLoperations.com website if you want to check it out and read it for yourself. So let's hop to it. Currently, each of the 32 teams in the NFL will receive one draft pick in each of the 7 rounds of the NFL draft. Now, this has changed over the years. In previous years, there were as much as 30 rounds for the draft. Luckily, we have toned that back, and now the NFL only has 7 rounds. The order of selection is determined by the reverse order of finish in the previous season. Barring any trades between clubs, each round starts with the team that finished with the worst record and ends with the Super Bowl champions. Now you can see in there it says barring any trades. Most likely, we all know teams make trades for players or trade up and down in the draft itself. So every team does not have a pick in each round because they've traded away for another player, or they wanted to change draft positions and maybe they traded back or up in the draft and traded out of their position in the next round. Teams that did not qualify for the playoff are assigned draft slots 1 through 20. The order is determined by the standings at the end of the regular season. The club with the worst record will pick first. This year we know that's the Cincinnati Bengals, and the team with the best record will pick 20th. Now this year, Lions fans, we all know that the Lions will pick third because they have the 3rd worst record in the league. Teams that did qualify for the playoffs are assigned draft slots 21 through 32. The order is determined by the results of the previous year's postseason play. The 4 teams eliminated in the wild card round in slots 21 through 24 in the reverse order of their regular season record. The same thing goes for the 4 teams eliminated in the divisional round in slots 25 through 28 in the reverse order of their regular season record. The same thing goes for the 2 teams that lose in the conference championship. They pick 29th and 30th, and it's in reverse order of their regular season record. The team that lost the Super Bowl picks 31st, and the team that won a Super Bowl picks 32nd. In situations where teams finished the previous season with identical records, the determination of draft position is decided by strength of schedule, the aggregated winning percentage of the team's opponents. The team that played the schedule with the lowest winning percentage will be awarded the higher draft pick. So basically, if you had 2 teams that finished with identical records, the team that played the schedule with the lower winning percentage will receive the higher draft pick. So if you have 2 teams that finished with the same record and the one team played better teams, they will get their lower draft pick. So they will get the number 2 draft pick over the team that will pick the 3rd. So if the Lions and the Redskins had the same record, the Lions played better teams, they will pick 3rd, and the Redskins will pick 2nd. Just for example, we already know that the Lions are picking 3rd for this draft. If the teams that have the same strength of schedule, division, or conference tiebreakers are applied. So basically, if you had 2 teams that played in the same conference or the same divisions, the team that had the higher winning percentage within the conference or the division will get the higher draft pick, and the other team will get the lower draft pick. Now, if the division or conference tiebreakers do not apply or ties still exist between the teams and different conferences, the ties will be broken with the following tiebreaker method. So a head-to-head. So one team had the same record as another team, but they played each other. The team that won would get the higher draft pick. The best won, loss, tie percentage, and common games. That means their record between if they played the same opponents. The strength of victory in all games. The best combined ranking of all teams in points scored and points allowed in games. The best net points in all games, or the best net touchdown in all games if everything was still the same. Now, at the end of the day, if everything is still equal, they will just do a coin toss to determine who's going to pick higher. So there you have it, assigning draft picks. If you don't know, now you know. Like my man Biggie Small said, baby. Now let's get back to the Die Hard Den podcast with my man, Shawnee J. All right, we're back from Now You Know. Hope you enjoyed that piece on how the NFL assigns draft picks. Now, we promised you this, and we're going to read the rules for the giveaway for the eco-friendly hand-woven backpack Lions theme. So here's the rules for the giveaway. So you need to either like the Facebook page, follow the show on Twitter, or follow the show on Instagram. And then you need to like the Facebook post or tweet or Instagram post that this podcast is going to be on for this week. And then you need to email the word of the week to the show email account, and make sure you include what platform you're following the show on so I can verify who you are in the email and that you follow the show on one of the platforms. Now, the word of the week this week is pride. Pride is the word of the week this week. So email that account, which is dieharddenpodcast@gmail.com. And you email pride to that email address, and you can follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/diehardden. Or you can follow the show on Twitter at dieharddenpodc1. Or you can follow the show on Instagram at die_hard_den_podcast on Instagram. Now, we're looking forward to giving this bag away. I've had it on the show for a minute, but due to the technical difficulties that we weren't able to have the giveaway in a timely manner, like we said. But we're going to honor the giveaway nevertheless, and we have some other things we're going to be giving away in the future. But you have to listen to the podcast to figure out if you've won the bag or not. And that way, once we announce the winner, we also will give instructions to the winner of the bag on how to claim the prize. So that is the rules for our giveaway for the eco-friendly knapsack hand-woven bag. So, and now it is time for us to go ahead and get on out of here. Shawnee J, let the people know how they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Facebook, Sean Jennings. I'm also the head administrator of Detroit Lions Truest fan page on Facebook. If you want to join, I'd be happy to add you. I'll keep the fans updated all off season with the Lions doings.
Right. And you can find me, my personal accounts is at Curtis Steele 14 on Instagram and Twitter. And you can follow the show on those platforms. Again, on Facebook.com is Facebook.com/diehardden. On Twitter is at dieharddenpodc1. On Instagram is at die_hard_den_podcast. And if you want to email the show, it is dieharddenpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to interacting with you all, and definitely going to have some fun giving this bag away and some other prizes coming up in the future. We definitely appreciate you listening in to our podcast here at the Die Hard Den podcast. We look forward to bringing you some content, definitely head into the draft, and we're looking forward to the new upcoming league year that's going to start here early March. So as always, from my man Shawnee J, this is Kurt Steele. And from the Die Hard Den podcast, thank you again for listening, and we are out.